Did you hear? The dream of most new cars being electric by 2032 might not happen. Even with lower prices and incentives, EV sales are dropping. Yes, this is the official statement from Biden's administration, but what might be the reason? The Biden administration has recently toned down its ambitious goal of making 2/3 of new vehicles all electric by 2032. This adjustment comes as the growth of the electric vehicle segment has slowed considerably, failing to meet expectations despite the drop in prices and incentives. There are 6 key reasons behind this decline. Market oversupply. According to the reports, there are many EVs that are still in the dealer's inventory, and dealers are not happy with the current sales situation. The supply chain crisis that was experienced at the end of the previous year saw an increase in production beyond the demand estimates that would have been given by the growth rates of the previous years, which stood at over 90% year on year. But only a 50% increase in EV sales was recorded last year, meaning that EVs are still a less than 8% market share in the U.S. This has led to a situation where dealers are unable to sell the vehicles they may have in stock, and this has forced some manufacturers to cut down on the production of some of their EV models. Price and insurance cost. The prices of electric vehicles have come down in recent years, but they are still relatively expensive. Currently, new EVs cost between $50,000 and $60,000 on average, which is slightly better than 2022, but still above the market average of $48,000 for gas-powered vehicles. The problem is made worse by the fact that there are very few EVs that are affordable, with only a few models that are below $30,000 and only a few more that are within the $30,000 to $40,000 range. Hybrids, on the other hand, are cheaper with an average price of $40,000. This, combined with their perceived benefits, including lower range and charging concern, make them a more attractive proposition for the environmentally conscious consumer. Also, insurance costs for EVs are relatively expensive because of factors such as high initial cost, low reliability, and low resale value. These factors help explain why EVs are not growing at the same rate as their gas-electric counterparts. Although EVs have some advantages in terms of the environment, they are more expensive to purchase and insure than traditional vehicles. Therefore, until the prices of EVs come down and insurance costs reduce, gas-electric hybrids may still sell more than EVs in the market. Range and charging anxiety. Range and charging anxiety are still some of the biggest factors that hinder the adoption of electric vehicles. Although the range of EVs has increased, with some models now capable of more than 300 miles on a single charge, this may not be enough for long-haul trips without charging stops. Moreover, battery capacity is highly dependent on external conditions like cold climate, which can decrease autonomy dramatically. High usage, including towing or hauling, can result in quick battery discharge, which poses problems for all electric pickups in the market. Another source of anxiety is the absence of charging infrastructure. Some regions still lack publicly available charging stations, and not every customer has access to home charging. Stories of non-functional chargers, including in well-developed EV regions such as the San Francisco Bay, only add to doubts about the stability and availability of the network. These challenges highlight the need for further investment in the development of charging networks and battery technology to alleviate range and charging issues, which will help to drive increased EV adoption. Resale value. To most of us, the resale value is a factor that we consider, especially when purchasing a new car. We have to keep some of the initial value of the vehicle intact, but with EVs, that is impossible because there is almost no market for used EVs. The issue is that there are very few people who would be willing to buy a second-hand EV, mainly because of the battery. For that reason and a few others, EVs are said to depreciate much faster than their gas and hybrid counterparts. Based on the latest available data, the depreciation rate of EVs stands at 47% within the first 5 years of ownership. To put this into perspective, the industry average is approximately 38%. Electric cars are estimated to be about 8%, while gas cars are estimated to be about 37%. Pickup trucks and hybrids are said to depreciate even slower than the average car. If we look at some of the most popular EVs, there are not many models that retain their value as much as one would expect. The Tesla Model 3 is one of the few exceptions, with a 5-year-old depreciation rate of 43%, which is still significantly higher than that of gasoline-powered cars. On the other hand, models like the Nissan Leaf and Chevy Bolt lose 50% of their range when carrying a 200-pound load, 8% and 51%. After 5 years, the residual value of the BMW 3 Series is 1% of its original value, while that of the Tesla Model S is 55%. Of course, the losses are the highest with the most costly and most lavish cars, including the Porsche Taycan. In some cases, that EV was able to decline in value by more than $100,000 in just 4 years. In comparison, the Porsche 911 depreciates by less than 15% over the same period, so you don't have to overthink when deciding between these two. Repair cost and low reliability ratings. EVs are less complex than internal combustion cars, and therefore they have fewer problems that can occur. In theory, they should be more accurate, but the latest reports indicate that this is not the case. According to the latest survey conducted by Consumer Reports, electric cars are 80% less reliable than their gasoline counterparts. Some of the factors that make consumers avoid buying an EV include software problems, battery and charging issues, bad assembly, and quality control. For instance, the new Chevy Blazer EV is one of the most infamous failures that we have come across in recent years, as the car is flawed in almost every aspect. Software problems, battery and charging problems. It got to a point where GM had no other choice than to halt the sales of this EV until it had fixed these problems. However, reliability is not the only issue to be considered. There is also the cost of maintaining the facility. Once again, in theory, EVs should be cheaper to operate than vehicles with internal combustion engines. There are no oil changes and similar things. However, on the other hand, EVs are much heavier and therefore the tire replacement is much more often. EV technology is still not good enough. Still, EVs are still not good enough, at least from the perspective of an average buyer, despite all the improvement we have seen. Indeed, most EVs boast of great power and acceleration, but apart from that, are there any other real-world advantages? However, it's still important to note that EVs are not yet as autonomous as IC cars, and the prices are still considerably higher. But there is also the question of convenience. EVs need a total overhaul of the way people live, and no one is willing to make that change. In the case of EVs, you have to understand that you'll be spending much more time at charging stations than you would at a gas station. Regarding home charging, many potential buyers do not have that kind of luxury. Still, we can recall the recent survey by Boston Consulting Group, according to which only 40% of customers intend to purchase an electric car. But even they have much higher criteria than car makers can meet at the moment. They want a $50,000 car with 350 miles range and 20 minutes of charging. Currently, there's just one EV on the market that meets these requirements, the Hyundai Ioniq 6 SE RWD Long Range. I believe that more needs to be done in the field of EV technology. This brings up another issue, the phenomenon that is commonly referred to as the buyer remorse. Consumers are not willing to invest a lot of money into a product that may be obsolete or significantly cheaper in a few years. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below.